Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the Wrestle Addict Radio Network.
Hey, what's up, you guys?
What is going on, everybody?
What up, fam?
Hey, it's me.
What up, Oozes?
What's up, guys? This is the Monday Night Delight.
Are you looking for a network that brings you all things pro wrestling? Then look no further. Wrestle Addict Radio brings you a varied source of wrestling content.
What's going on, guys? This is Willie T.
My name is Mr Fretz.
This is your resident Smart Slayer.
Search for Wrestle Addict Radio on all major podcast platforms and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
Buzz, guys. My name is Kate Murphy of the Kings of the Ring podcast, and you are listening.
And you're listening. And you're listening.
And you are listening.
And you are listening.
Get ready for a war, because you're listening.
Come join the war each and every week as we fight to keep wrestling real.
What's up, everybody? This is King Ricky Rose, and you are listening to Wrestle Addict Radio.
Are you ready? Hey, think you can tell us what to do? You think you can tell us what to wear? You think that you're better? Well, you better get ready. Bow to the masters. Break it down. Degenerate into something fool. We just got tired of doing what you told us to do. That's a brace, boy. Yeah, that's a brace, little man. Break it down. Degeneration up. Degeneration. You think you can tell me what to do?
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Changer Podcast. I am NateFNGreat, being joined here by my great co-host, the Shawn Michaels, to my Hunter Tilmsley. Who the hell is that guy? I don't know. It is the one and only Mr. Fretz. Welcome back, my good sir.
It is the Prime Minister of Wrestle Addict Radio, the sole representation of Canada on Wrestle Addict Radio, because fuck you, Slack. And yes, Mr. Fretz. Of course, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the legendary JF. You guys are aware of my pinned tweet I am raising money and doing an 8K walk for the Toronto Sick Kids Hospital Bleeding Disorders Fund on the morning of SummerSlam, which is already a week away. I didn't know it was August until I woke up this morning. That's what night shifts will do to you. Yeah, it's great to be back, Nate. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. My plans for 2 weeks ago, when you had Mr. Man Who Shall Remain Nameless, Agent Cooper. Okay, I'm gonna have to not say his name 3 times so he doesn't appear like Beetlejuice. Yeah, so I've been away for a couple of weeks, folks. Initially, I had plans the first week to go and try on wedding suits for my brother's wedding in the fall. Those plans fell through.
Mazel tov.
Yeah. Those plans fell through because work, I work for him too, and we're both at a grocery store. It's hella busy. So we went last week, and my mother also visiting, so she accompanied us, and we went and had some family time. So now that I'm back, I'm forewarning people there are going to be a couple of more other weeks, like especially when that wedding comes up. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Hi, I'm back, and I'm not better than ever. I got my coffee and got my beer. Drink it in. I'm ready.
Of course, guys, we are part of the great people of the Wrestle Addict Radio Network. Definitely check them out on Facebook, on Twitter. Also, give a follow to our good friends that are on the Wrestle Addict Radios, the Gift of Podcast, the Fourth Wall WrestleCast, the Kings of the Rings Podcast, and the Nacho Mama Soap Opera Podcast. Definitely, guys, check out, of course, the Gift of Podcast as well as Nacho Mama's podcast, because as we're recording this has already been out, and I'm sure as we get this thing out right now, definitely check out Fourth Wall WrestleCast, as well as the highly entertaining Kings of the Rings podcast, which is hosted by Kate Murphy, the Queen Bee, as well as Willie T, and some other third guy that I have no idea who it is. I'm kidding.
Royalty? Because, Kate Murphy's a queen. She calls herself the Queen Bee, calls themselves the Queen Bee. Is there a king? King Booker. King Booker? King Beer?
Is that...
King Ralph? There's a name for it. You 80s kids, King Ralph. Look that up.
Honest to God, I'm going to say this right now. I don't know if this is going to happen, guys, but there is a lot. They've already kind of talked about this. I do believe that Willie T and King Ricky are going to be at Survivor Series this year, which is going to be, oddly enough, in my backyard of Chicago. So maybe we'll be doing something special for that. Maybe it's a Game Changer versus Kings of the Rings deal. Who knows? This is just speculation. Take it for what it is, as right now it's just a grain of salt, or even like a grain of sand at this point. But we're doing something.
I'm not eating hot peppers, Nate. I'm not doing the cinnamon challenge.
Well, we'll make it something more interesting, because I will also say this, that a lot of people might be interested in knowing. Dusty Dave, one of our good friends, he actually says that I do owe him a plate of chops for, I think it was beating him at either, I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was either TLC or
Rumble.
it was
Royal
Rumble.
It was the Rumble, I think.
Yeah, I think it was
because,
Rumble.
Well, you guys were both at WrestleMania, and I was, watching everything on social media. Like, where's the chops? What's going on?
Well, I can tell everybody right now the chops are going to be taking place at All Out at the end of the month, so you guys are going to get your money's worth. You're going to enjoy that. I know certain individuals who will be enjoying it that much, but that's neither here nor there. So here's the thing about this month.
There's one for the day.
So here's the thing about this month's editions of the Game Changer podcast. Obviously, you can go to every other podcast, and they'll talk about, classic shows. They'll talk about stuff that happened throughout the week, talk about things that are going on, wrestling deals. But for us, we like to do things a little bit differently, obviously. And one thing that we kind of thought would be kind of cool is to talk about some very strong and very huge, game-changing storylines or ideas that came through to WWE, but ultimately did crash and burn. I did kind of talk about it briefly last week. I gave my thoughts on the Nexus, and obviously with my co-host being back here, Mr. Fretz, I gave my thoughts on it last week. I think I've given enough on that. So, got to know your opinion on the Nexus and everything that went down for that entirety of, what was it, like almost half of a year. It was about 6 months, I want to say.
Yeah, this was just a victim. At first, I think it was a victim of bad luck. Looking at Daniel Bryan getting fired for choking Justin Roberts with the tie. Then they got bit by the injury bug. I think it was Tarver went down with injury, and Ryback, Skip Sheffield went down with one. I think Darren Young was cast out, and then Daniel Bryan came back. So what I got a thing on Reddit here, and I have the FCW roster circa 2010. And one thing I would do with these bodies is, although they weren't in the initial reality season of NXT, I would replenish these bodies into the Nexus. Now, I'm going to be saying a whole bunch of names here, and maybe we'll see if these guys would have fit in the 2010 Nexus. And right away, Big E. We have Bo Rotundo, Bo Dallas. We have Brad Maddox, Jinder Mahal, Mason Ryan, who would join the Nexus in the future, Brett DiBiase, the younger brother of Ted Jr., a whole bunch of, a veritable who's that of wrestling in here, like Buck Dixon and Calvin Reigns, and Jackson Andrews, who was Tyson's kid bodyguard for 1 week in 2011.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Wes Briscoe, the son of Jerry Briscoe, so that would have made for interesting TV. Of course, we know he joined the fabled Aces and Eights in the future. And Damian Sandow and Epico and Hunico were here. Leo Kruger, Adam Rose.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Xavier Woods was rolling around at this point. And I see a name, this guy went by a different name at this point, but he went by Leaki.
I know you're talking about.
And of course we know that's Roman Reigns. Nate's given the old fistaroo here. So maybe if I was doing a bit of fantasy booking, that's what I would maybe replenish a body if it was necessary. Like, if they went down with another injury, I mean, okay, Mason Ryan, why not? He's a big, imposing, yet untalented guy. And then I think it was just a victim of bad booking. Of course, they should have went over at SummerSlam. Like, even Cena himself says that. Like, he's like, why am I going over? And I think Wade Barrett, he should have had a run with the title. Like, he should have had it right away. Like, you win at SummerSlam, you win the title at Night of Champions. Maybe you do that, if Cena doesn't win, he gets fired. Like, I was just watching, What Culture, Adam Blompier's rebooking of the Nexus while I was eating breakfast just now. Excuse me. And, I'll go with everything he says. It's like, okay, yeah, so Cena loses, the get fired thing. He goes away for the rest of the year. We don't see Juan Cena, thankfully.
Oh, jeez.
And then say, Cena comes back at the Rumble, and you have WrestleMania set right away. So I think I would have the Nexus go for a more stronger unit. Maybe they get a whole bunch of the gold, like, Slater and Justin Gabriel win the tag titles. Somebody wins the IC title. And you know what? Maybe, even though he was ridiculously over, I would still keep Daniel Bryan in this stable, at least for a while. Even though he was going to be feuding with The Miz, and he was getting over as a bit of a plucky babyface on reality NXT. I would try it, and of course, my fantasy zone is like, okay, no one gets fired, no one gets injured, so that's another thing.
Yeah, in all honesty.
Yeah, and the new Nexus, right? That was just asking for trouble. Maybe I would have Punk take over as the leader, like after Wade Barrett loses at WrestleMania, whatever year that was. There's a power struggle. He gets ousted. Punk is in, but no core.
Yeah, no, that was just that was interesting. I think the only interesting thing about it was that they had more theme song changes than any other faction. No,
that was just Wade.
Or yeah, no, that is true. I think that's already got the.
I've had enough. Then the next week's like, God save the Queen. And then it was like something else. But the one thing I have to say I loved about Nexus was their theme song, 12 Stones. I mean, that's a Christian metal band, but I heard of them like years and years ago. And then when I heard that singer, I'm just like, that's bloody 12 Stones. And even though I was like, this was 9 years ago.
I know. We're getting up
wow.
there.
So I can tell you exactly where I was and what I was doing while the Nexus was going on. I was working at a special needs camp, actually not far from where I live now.
Really?
Yeah, I was a cook / dish boy, kitchen. I was a kitchen guy at a special needs camp. Do you know of the organization Christian Horizons or Community Living? Do they have them down there?
I can't say that I've heard of that name before. So they may have some that are down here, but I've never heard that name before.
Okay, well, another one that's compared to it is L'Arche.
L'Arche.
Well, it's a special needs thing. Actually, the founder of Christian Horizons was a pastor at a church that I interned at, and he passed away about a couple weeks ago.
Oh, jeez.
Anyways, this is not Tales from the Camp, because the second time I worked at that job, it sucked. Anyways, yeah, I was working at that camp, and I couldn't watch a lot of Raw, but when I did, I would like catch highlights and whatever, and I'm watching all these guys. Yeah, it was good, but it could have been better.
Yeah, it honestly could have. And when I look back and I think about, what was I even doing during that year for 2010? That was, oh geez, that would be the year that I had my severe car accident. But before that even happened, I was, in my opinion, I think I was like going through like the peak of my acting gimmick. I can't say career, because in order to have a career, you have to have money, and I wasn't getting paid for that. But that's neither here nor there. I did like one show after another, and Yeah, I was doing a lot of that, but I also remember watching a lot of Raws, and I remember watching the Nexus and just being absolutely, fascinated that it's just a bunch of young guys that were just, going out there and just literally just destroying everything that was in their way, and then they get crushed by John Cena, which I think was one of the few points where I started thinking, okay, something's not right here. But yeah, I think you take every single thing that you said, and that's basically what I was saying last week. The Adam Blampier deal, yeah, it's hard to really kind of disagree with how that was kind of booked. And I even said that, I couldn't think of anybody that was going to be a bigger threat to the Nexus than John Cena, because I even threw out names like, there's like Kofi Kingston, maybe face Dolph Ziggler, Edge, Taker, which honestly, I'm still pissed off we did not get a follow-up to that. I think that Wade Barrett versus Undertaker would have been amazing.
Oh, I actually just had something for that. So, this is Fantasy Booking Zone.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say it's Earth B.
Okay.
Because it's a funny thing. Like I'm actually, when I get more time, I actually started doing a thing called Attitude Readjustment, where I rebook aspects of the Attitude Era, not the whole thing, because that would be death. So Taker gets buried alive at Survivor Series, as is tradition, because when does he not get buried at Survivor Series? You get the Royal Rumble, Wade Barrett's eliminating everybody, then let's just say number 13, because reasons. Like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, gong. Nothing. Lights out. Taker's not in the match, but whoever was in the ring, let's just say Wade Barrett laid out Randy Orton with the Wasteland. Oh, crappiest finisher of all time, that is. Oh, man. Yeah. Orton, RKO. And then in Earth B, we have Barrett and Taker. But maybe let's just do like a gimmick. He's done it before at Mania, but why not just do like a casket match or something at WrestleMania?
Okay.
And, the Nexus interferes, and then if they're disqualified or they break up or whatever, and then Barrett loses, and then he's ousted, and that's when I think you'd bring in Punk.
Honestly, that'd really be good. Now, some people might disagree with that, but it's like, but then we wouldn't get Triple H versus Undertaker. Yeah, we get something. We get something better. I'm sorry, I would have much rather had the whole, every year Undertaker faces somebody else, even if it's just somebody different. I'm sure a lot of people were not happy about him facing Mark Henry, but match itself, I still thought it was pretty good. I was very, very surprised. I'm still surprised when Undertaker was able to just, do a chokeslam, and then he picks him up and does a tombstone to Mark Henry. It's like, Mark Henry's no small dude, especially back during, that was 2005, I think he did the tombstone to him. Might have been 2006. But yeah, just seeing him do that, it's like, dude, this guy's pretty much like the greatest thing that's ever been created by WWE. And again, for them to not follow up to the whole, him getting buried alive, in our world, it was at Bragging Rights. In that world, it would be at Survivor Series, because why the hell not? But yeah, it just would make sense. Just have, Barrett cost Taker, and then it would almost kind of feel like the same way with that, like Kane and Undertaker did for WrestleMania 20. The build-up would feel the same, but it is different because Barrett has backup. Kane had nobody, and I think that Barrett could put on a bit of a better match than what Taker and Kane put on for the WrestleMania 20 match. I'm sorry, but that was just kind of one of those sleeper matches where it's like, hey, Taker's back, that's great, he's back to the dead man gimmick. How was the match?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, no, I think that would actually be honestly really great. Yeah, so honestly, guys, it just is very unfortunate that you did have a game-changing deal like the Nexus, and there was even an interview in Inside the Ropes. I kind of hit on this a little bit last week, that Wade Barrett talks about this, the whole entire deal. He said that, not only were we think we were going to win, but we were practically told, yeah, you're going to win at SummerSlam. And then as, it got closer, day of, they did that. They had the whole deal where it's like, okay, you're eliminating them, you're eliminating him, you're going him, he's gone, and then John Cena's going to beat you and Justin Gabriel. And Barrett's like, no, that's it. We should be the one that goes over. And Arn Anderson threw his hands up, like, hey, I'm just a messenger. You have to go talk to Vince. And he talks about, how hard it is to get to Vince McMahon. Finally, they do. He gives his reasons why he should have, won. And McMahon replies to him by saying the reason why we want, Cena to go over is we want SummerSlam to have a happy ending. Not exactly the one that you'd be thinking of, but basically it's one of those situations where, he wanted the fans, he wanted the kids to go home happy, which in all honesty, probably not the best way to do it. If it had somebody else like Chris Jericho or Edge be the ones that does it, maybe that would have been a happy ending. But have John Cena, one of the most polarizing figures in WWE, be the one to create the happy ending, just doesn't really settle well.
They had a non-happy ending the year before. Punk and Hardy?
That is true. Although somebody could argue that having Undertaker come back was what made it a happy ending, quote unquote.
Well, that was just Taker getting his heat back, and that was just Punk getting a new feud. I'll apologize to the audio listeners. I'm just adjusting my laptop screen there. There we go. Yeah, and it was I'm trying to think what else SummerSlam didn't have a happy ending. I actually can't think of it, but what other pay-per-views, but even that year they had pay-per-views with non-happy endings, so I think that's just a pat answer, if you ask me.
In all honesty, it's like you said, there are other pay-per-views that have, very, very unsatisfying endings, and that's fine, because you have to have those unsatisfying endings, and not quite the unsatisfying endings that we would have, like, let's say, at thing in Saudi Arabia that shall not be, named, because let's face it, that matchup was a train wreck. But you have these endings where the heel goes over, and that gets you invested, because now to the next pay-per-view it's like, okay, are we going to see the heel get his comeuppance? Is he going to continue to weasel out of this, or is it going to be the true happy ending that we would have? And honestly, they definitely should have had, in all honesty, it would have been a crazy idea, but had they had Barrett win the title at Survivor Series, it would have been one of the most polarizing moments you could have, because for some fans, hey, Barrett's the WWE champion. Crap, we got to deal with John Cena. And, honestly, we're going to get another Randy Orton versus John Cena match, more than likely, for, hey, this person's going to get a title shot for this and blah, 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 blah. That kind of deal. But yeah, you have to pick your moments, and you have to decide not to do the happy endings all the time. And I think, honestly, right now, the best example of them doing a really, I guess I would say a really, kind of a bad ending was the Extreme Rules event, because we were thinking, okay, Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, hey, they won, they retained their titles. Brock Lesnar comes in, cashes in, wins the title. Many people, unless your name is Demon Diva or a Brock Lesnar guy, were pissed off about that. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, yes, we're pissed off about this, but we know in the next show something good is going to happen out of it, or at least something is going to come out of this in the future. So it's just another one of those moments where it just felt like somebody was politicking their way to change the main event. Oh, jeez. I think I'm catching something. I don't know. You can't see me. But, yeah, honestly, it's just really weird that they would just take something that is so white-hot and would just crush it. But then again, ironically enough, a year later, they would do the same thing, and it wasn't a happy ending deal. So it's like, what the hell are you doing? You could have had 3 consecutive deals where it didn't end on a happy note. Jeff Hardy loses to CM Punk. Nexus defeat Team WWE. Alberto Del Rio walks away with the WWE title. Oh, God, my brain hurts. Oh, dear Lord. That was a thing. I want him out of my wrestling forever. I'm sorry. I just know. Sorry, I'm ranting and raving, but Mr. Fretz, by all means, if you have anything more to add on.
What you just said, I totally forgot about Alberto Del Rio winning the title at SummerSlam. I used to be a big fan of him until, well, Yeah,
we're not going to go into that.
No.
So, guys, I think we're going to just take a little small commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to continue talking about more monumental, game-changing moments and, give our thoughts on what happened during these moments, give our thoughts on maybe how we would change them, and some missed opportunities that happened during this deal. And trust me, guys, you definitely don't want to miss this, because this next one is going to be quite... how could I put this without boiling up so much? Let's just say that this... Chronic? Okay, fine. It basically, it turned out to be a bunch of chronic. Let's just say that right now. So stay tuned, guys. We will be right back.
What up, ooses? This is DFDC Jeff Pomantrio of Not Your Mama Soap Opera, and you're listening to Wrestle Addict Radio.
Hi, I'm NateFNGreat. You know what's really fun, you guys, is just spending some time creating wrestling moments. Whether it's being in the crowd, cutting promos, or just really kind of beating each other up with a chair or a trash can. Well, let's just say that there's a safer way to doing that without using the actual chair or a trash can. Go over to Great Minds Revolution Incorporated. My buddy Kurt has actually created a very safe and fun way to be a wrestling fan without the necessary lawsuits of basically beating each other up with real stuff. He has an inflatable chair that is really fun to just whack around, and it could also double as a little floaty for a pool. He also has the inflatable trash can, which, you guys, is really awesome because let's say maybe you don't want to use it for wrestling matches. You could use it at your barbecue, your next big tailgate party, whatever you could think of. Great Minds Revolution, Inc. They do a great job on making wrestling fun again. Proud friends of the Game Changer
What's going
podcast.
on, everybody? This is Will Tarashuk, the founder of the Kings of the Rings
Ladies and
podcast,
gentlemen,
and you are listening to Wrestle Addict Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Coda Jacobs, the crusader and visionary behind a brighter future in wrestling. If you're an honorable and noble public servant like myself, you are listening to the Game Changer podcast.
Oops, did I just record over Willie T? Willie T, love you, bud. No, nothing wrong with that. Welcome back to the Game Changer podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm NateFNGreat. He is Mr. Fretz. Definitely check us out on our Twitters at the legendary JF as well as at Real F and Game. And of course, check out Wrestle Addict Radio along with the great people a part of that. They are just absolutely awesome. Check out their shows. Always widely entertaining, and we always try to strive to keep wrestling real. So, with that being said, honestly, guys, we have to get the big one probably out of the way. There's so many game-changing moments that we could be mentioning, but the biggest misbooking and the biggest probably game-changing moment that was wasted in wrestling history was indeed the Invasion storyline. So let's kind of go over basically what happened. So the week before WrestleMania happens, Vince McMahon buys WCW. He talks about grabbing the competition by the throat and then squeezing the life out of it. And then he finds out that, hey, Shane McMahon has bought WCW under his nose because apparently Vince decides, you know what, nobody's going to buy this company. I'll sign it at WrestleMania. It's fine. Then Shane McMahon decides, I'm just going to take your checkbook and write a higher check here. Here you go. I'm the owner of WCW. So Shane McMahon owns WCW. Basically, a lot of the WCW stars, they come in and they start attacking people during the matches. Then we get ECW involved in this, and it's owned and operated by, of all people, Stephanie McMahon Helmsley. And we're going to just say the inflatable Stephanie McMahon for sake of time. And they created an alliance, and then they created this new event called Invasion, where we had, like WCW matches, WCW, ECW stars against WWF stars. All culminating with Stone Cold Steve Austin turning heel again, which was the second time he turned heel that year, and it was really dumb, to say the least. He would go on to feud with Kurt Angle, Booker T, who was the WCW champion of the Alliance. He would go on to feud with The Rock. We have some really weird storylines that were put into here. Many involved a shredding of a mop, a stalker deal.
You're welcome.
A deal in which we see a Japanese guy getting a hot blonde chronic. There's a lot of headaches when it comes to this, and it was a mercy kill at Survivor Series where it was the Team WWF versus Team Alliance in a winner-takes-all matchup, and it concludes with, hey, wouldn't you know it, not a WCW or ECW guy, it was The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. And The Rock won, winning for the WWF. They survived. This was just... I mean, at the time, it was great. And I will say this, that one of their moments did bring me into wrestling and got me into one of my favorite stars of all time. But the thing about it is that everything that went on there is just so infuriating and so just absolutely mind-boggling that you just think to yourself, why was this a thing? You could have had some of the bigger names from WCW because, hey, you're supposed to be like, hey, we bought WCW. We can buy out these things. But the problem was that they had these big, juicy contracts with Time Warner that they were just willing to just sit out and just be like, you know what, we're fine. We got money coming our way. It's cool. And honestly, Adam put it up the same way. And yes, we're going to make a lot of Adam Blombier references because they're really awesome ideas, is that you can still buy out those contracts. And, you know, there's some stars you don't necessarily need in WWF. You could just trim the fat and get the money to get them in. Now, let's just say that that doesn't happen, that you had to work with what you got. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So honestly, Mr. Fretz, I want to know, what are your kind of like thoughts and reactions when you think of the Invasion storyline, the whole deal where we had WCW and ECW versus the WWF?
Excuse me 1 minute.
Oh, he's taking a swig. Make that 2.
And that beer is 7%, so this is going to get pretty hot. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and fantasy look the whole thing. I'll say this: it's controversial to, reference Blompier. I know he had a rough go at the end of his What Culture days. He's not doing stuff anymore. But I'll say his mind for this. If you want to rebook, if you want my mind on it, check his out, because that basically takes the words out of my mouth. No heel turn for Stone Cold. This was nothing but McMahon-mania. This was just another knot in the McMahon family feud. Like my goodness, we need. Okay, I'm trying to think of a. This is a very dated reference. I think the only people from this who might get this are like people like as old as me, like Doc Haas and Jay Bones. But they need like Dr. Katz, professional therapists. They need some serious intervention. The fact that this was just the McMahon feud again, or just the Austin Rock feud, like my goodness. And this was also, too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing. Pardon me. ECW getting involved really muddied the water a little bit. I thought they could have survived maybe as a not like a third brand, but kind of like a what am I getting? Like social outcasts, not those social outcasts, but kind of like a group off to the side, like a what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a vigilante kind of thing. You kind of know where I'm going with this name?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I see what you mean.
Yeah, not neutral. Let's just say they're like chaotic neutral. Boom! Okay. Ha! Thank you, alcohol. They're off to the side, and they don't join WCW, but this was a failure right from the get-go. Although at this point in time, 2001, I was 17. That summer, I was working at the family butcher shop. Yes, my family had a butcher shop, Fretz Butchers. It was awesome. And like my cousin, like the same cousin, Johnny, shout out Johnny, that got me into wrestling. Him and I were watching every week. Then Tuesday morning we go to work. It's like, Diamond Dallas Page, man, what? I think it was a failure right from the get-go. because of WrestleMania X7. I mean, we all know that infamous story where allegedly there was supposed to be like a whole whack of WCW guys coming in and interfering, costing Shane the match, and then WCW kind of becomes SmackDown or something. No, I think that's where I would also go with it in a way. Say like after the whole feud ends at WrestleMania X8. Again, see what culture. And yeah, McMahon's too many cooks in the kitchen. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I loved seeing all these WCW and ECW guys on Raw every week, like Rob Van Dam, Mike Awesome, all these other like Booker T. All these guys got mainstream exposure. And the lesser we said about that one-time Nitro main evented Raw, the better, because Buff Bagwell, really? And I'm saying that because I was a big Buff Bagwell fan when he was in the NWO. I don't know why. It was just... It wasn't a string of bad luck. It was a string of bad booking and just terrible decisions. Stephanie McMahon, the GM of ECW... That makes as much sense as Mike Adamle, the GM of Raw.
That's
yeah.
right.
I know Jeff Harvey. I lied. I'm going to delve into a little bit of fantasy booking, but I'm going to spend as less time as possible here. So I think I did write about this on my Fretzelmania blog. Like, I haven't touched that in months, so I can't even tell you if I even did it. But WrestleMania X7, let's just say that Sean Stasiak doesn't go on the radio and blab his mouth off. Or tape record conversations in private. Look that up. He did that. What a pervert. So Vince McMahon, they're in the ring, and then, Vince McMahon eats, say, okay, Jungle Kick by Palumbo, Shanton Bomb by Sean O'Hare, maybe a Diamond Cutter, let's see, who else was in the event? Maybe a super kick by Lance Storm. You get the picture. Everyone from WCW comes out and kicks Vince's ass. Stone Cold doesn't turn heel. He doesn't join the alliance. WCW is a threat from WCW itself. And yes, like Blompier, I'm bringing in the NWO. Because why not? You can temporarily release your Hakus, your Crash Hollies, your S.A. Rios, who is still in the company in 2001, your Kai and Tai, and then bring them in after maybe. But, yeah, another thing, if they were going to go like this, I would have put the Alliance over at Survivor Series, winner take all. And then December, you have Starrcade.
Yeah, so it is similar to what Adam Blumpier had, but do add some very nice trickles in there. I actually do like that. So if I were to kind of fantasy book it, I'm going to kind of look at it at a perspective of saying you have to work with what you got here. So, we can't get NWO, we can't get Goldberg, we can't get Sting. What you could get Sting, the thing about it, though, is that you don't do what what caused him to basically say, I'm good, which was, don't have The Rock say to, Booker T, who are you? Because that was the thing that kind of set him over the edge, where it's like, I'm not interested in this company, I'm not interested in working with them, so we're going to just erase that. I do agree kind of with where you're going. I would definitely, cut out a lot of the fat with a lot, or even the stupid decisions. First of all, having DDP as a stalker, that was just stupid. I mean, come on, guys. This is the guy who literally was one of the reasons why WCW, when it was dying, was awesome, was because of this man. He created some great matches. This is a guy who was in his early, he was late in the game, bottom line. He even said that. He's in his 30s, and he is wrestling so much better than some of the guys that are in their 20s. What is that telling you guys? And just don't have that. I would definitely probably nix the steel cage match at SummerSlam. I would actually still have Taker versus DDP at SummerSlam, but build it up as a situation where DDP's like, oh, you think you're the phenom of the WWE? Well, guess what? I'm saying that I'm the phenom of WCW. Just basically building that up so well. Don't involve the wife. Don't involve any of the creepiness there. I mean, you could still have him do the diamond cutter to his wife just to send a message, but that's it. No creepy stalker stuff, no video camera stuff, none of that crap. Make it as personal as possible. Just make it as personal as possible to where these guys literally are just wanting to beat the ever-living hell out of each other. I mean, with Booker T and The Rock, it seems like pretty easy booking right there. Don't have, Booker T seem like a joke. Don't make him into a deal. I know, The Rock is the most electrifying man in all of sports entertainment. He's supposed to be entertaining, stuff like that. You have to remember that, for them, it might be funny, especially for Vince McMahon. It's like, oh, a little tiny Booker T. That's funny. That's some good shit right there. It's like, no, don't make this a serious feud. Make it that, this is a captivating moment for WWF, that, they could hit the Alliance hard if they could take away their top possession, which is the WCW Championship. Build that up. But ultimately, I would have Booker T go over. Have it so that, the Alliance comes in, they interfere, The Rock can beat Booker T, but Booker T can't really beat The Rock without having, people on his side. And I would probably even go into the handicap match where, you have Booker T and Shane McMahon versus The Rock at Unforgiven, and I would have The Rock pin Shane to keep Booker T strong, but also to, again, take that away, because it's like a double whammy, and then you could maybe see some of the infighting between Shane McMahon, and I would not have Stephanie. I would actually have Paul Heyman still be the owner for ECW. I would still have like kind of an alliance, but don't have it be like, oh, it's ECW. It's like for Paul Heyman, it's like, I still respect WCW because they gave me my first job on international television. Yes, I hate what they did, but this is not run by Eric Bischoff anymore. Now it's being run by somebody who I respect in Shane McMahon, somebody who cannot back down from a challenge, somebody who has beaten Vince McMahon. He mentions the whole WrestleMania X7 victory. Just have it be like that, where it's like, this feels like a different WCW. And to kind of tie in with what my co-host was saying, yeah, have WCW maybe take over SmackDown. Have them basically have, WCW matches for like about a month. Good matches, I might add. So definitely nix Booker T and Buff Bagwell for obvious reasons. That way you could start building up the stars. You could start getting them established on your brand. And that way it's not just one of those situations where it's like, oh, it's just some random dude that nobody's heard about. Now people can be like, well, we've seen DDP wrestle, and he can actually do good. Oh, he's fighting The Undertaker. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Again, Booker T. Ooh, this is not just some guy who's, just got the crop top. He's got this kind of weird hairdo. No, he can actually go. He's really good. Just, again, you're establishing a brand, but you're also establishing a competition, is what WCW versus WWF was. And, again, you don't have to call it the Alliance. You can call it, the Outcasts or something like whatever. Just whatever it is. It could still be
Extreme Outcasts.
Extreme Outcasts. But yeah, you kind of build that up, and honestly, I think I would go the same direction as Fretz and Lumpy. I would have Alliance win, and I would probably even have Booker T be the one that pins him, because that way he's kind of like Mr. WCW, so he's kind of like the guy to beat. And then later on, if you can kind of coax him in, bring in Sting. You bring him into the fray, and he's going to slowly start bringing some more media attention, and having him battle maybe The Undertaker at WrestleMania 18. That would be really cool. I think it'd be better than the match between him and Ric Flair. Sorry, Flair, but it's just one of those things where I think it'd be very interesting to have. But yeah, it might even be interesting because Adam talks about bringing in Ric Flair because he's like Mr. WCW. You could have Flair come into the equation, not necessarily as like a manager and stuff like that. He could wrestle like every so often, but he's kind of one of those guys who's kind of helping grooming the younger guys. He did that with Sting for so many years. You have him be the one who's basically saying, okay, this is what the wrestling business is all about. He's basically like the mastermind behind this whole entire deal. Who knows? Maybe even have him be like the surprise investor who, puts money into this, this alliance between ECW and WCW, where it's like, well, how are you going to be able to afford this? How are you going to do that? Woo! Ric Flair comes out and he says, I'm endorsing this. WCW is my company. WCW was my home. I'm going to make sure that it I'm going to make sure that it's standing.
Oh, I just had a light bulb. When you were talking about that, I'm just like, okay, so Ric Flair comes in, but he comes in a little bit sooner as, like, the Shane McMahon to WCW, how, you know, like, oh, here's that leader of the ECW part of the Alliance, Stephanie. I'm like, no, the WCW part, you're just saying, oh, yeah, we have someone here who's going to run this WCW faction. And, of course, it has to be a Monday Night Raw in Charlotte that does that.
Yeah.
So they do this get a big baby face reaction, because I think the WCW faction was initially supposed to be, like, quote unquote baby face, if I'm not mistaken. Well, at least that's how it was being booked, because Shane was like, you know, like, oh, I just beat my dad's ass at WrestleMania. Oh, hey, I'm going to draft the Big Show, and then, you know, Big Show chokeslam, and we got that awesome, which way did he go? Which way did he go? You know, back when we loved Shane, I miss those days. I miss love it. I even loved him when he was a heel in the Unholy Alliance Corporation, whatever, because I just love seeing him get his ass kicked. Now I'm just like, you know, he's like, he takes a selfie picture on SmackDown in portrait mode. What a heel! It's like, I'm not going to be on SmackDown. Yeah. Yeah, I'd have Flair. Just he would be the consortium, but he'd be there sooner. And you know, I like he had that whole thing with McMahon, but I would do the Flair stuff, but I'd kind of push it up a little bit, and maybe I would have, say, as part of the Survivor Series, you know, winner takes all, balance of power thing, I'd put his match with Vince there, or add them to the Survivor Series and make it like a 6-on-6 or something. And, you know, Ric Flair locks in the figure 4, Vince taps out, and then the balance of power, at least temporarily, shifts there. And maybe, let's just say, for the Earth B, Earth C, you can go, like, you know how the Legend of Zelda timeline is, like, big, split, and complicated? You can make WWE storylines the exact same way, especially the invasion. Like, I could go off on, I'm not going to sit here for 10 hours and go off on a tangent about that, but it's like, you can go here, you can go here, you can go here, you can go here. But I'm pushing it up. And say WrestleMania, Ric Flair puts his whatever on the line, and that's maybe where you'd have, like, The Undertaker. You know, on the conscience of the WWE, maybe you kind of take the Deadman persona 2 years early. Like, this is true. It's truly fascinating stuff. Not only about how bad they dropped the ball on it, but also how you can rewrite it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I will actually kind of do this here. Some people might question, you know, well, for my fantasy booking, what about, you know, NWO? What about Goldberg? What about some of these bigger stars, like stuff like that? Honestly, guys, this is going to be an interesting idea. I don't think it would work, but it's an interesting idea. I'll even let you kind of, you know, give me like a thumbs up or thumbs down when it comes to this. You have to remember that when in our storyline, the Alliance ended at Survivor Series, and then a few months later, Vince McMahon talked about, you know, injecting the WWE with a lethal dose of poison, you know, something like that. So maybe it's a situation where, you know, where you know, Flair decides to bring in the NWO. But here's the thing about it, is that the younger guys actually oust the NWO. They oust Hulk Hogan. They oust Kevin Nash. They oust Scott Hall. They basically just say, we don't need you. We took over without your help. We don't need this nostalgic deal here to, you know, be a part of this. Then we have the NWO kind of turn more babyface, and they're kind of like the new force working with the WWF, and maybe it has like a headline match at WrestleMania. Maybe we have the NWO against like this huge deal. Maybe they bring in, you know, Booker T, DDP, and let's see who else would be a really big name that they could bring there. honestly, thinking about it, they could even have like the rematch between Hogan and Sting at WrestleMania. Maybe they could have match between, Scott the Outsiders against DDP and Booker T, something like that. Just building up this idea that, that, hey, NWO is going back to the WWF, but they're going back but they're not being accepted by Nitro, because you have to remember that they are still, grassrooted from WWE. Hulk Hogan was made famous in WWE. Kevin Nash, you could argue, was made famous in WCW, but he became more famous in WWE. Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, same thing. It's one of those things where it could be like a small thing that they put in there. It's like, you were born and bred in WWE, and then you decide to come into WCW and try to take over. No, we're not letting that happen again. Just building that up very well. As far as Goldberg goes, I would actually have him kind of come in after the whole alliance thing has kind of died down after WrestleMania, and I would build up to a match between Goldberg and Undertaker at WrestleMania 19, instead of the very great handicap match that we had where it was Big Show and A-Train versus Undertaker, and Nathan Jones was supposed to be the partner, but they said he was too green and just didn't make sense. My head's hurting.
Yeah, and I don't think it's because of the beer or the heat.
No.
Nathan Jones. Oh man, that was a bigger flop than Matt Morgan.
Oh jeez. Oh man.
Hot take too, because I actually liked him, but then when they started that whole stuttering crap, like, dude, okay, it's 2005 and you're making fun of stuttering people. I mean, it wasn't acceptable in 1999 either, but holy cow. Yeah, I like, once you went Goldberg, I'm just like, I immediately went to, are we pushing the whole Rock deal early? But then that means in the split timeline we don't get Rock Hogan, and just a bit of a forewarning for my blog. I won't finish this until like Christmas. But when I'm trying to do WrestleMania 13, and I'm like, okay, I want to keep Hart and Austin in the pay-per-view, but Bret Hart was supposed to face Shawn Michaels, but he lost his balls. I mean, his smile. His balls. And didn't want to go into it. So, and then in the split timeline, Austin and Owen Hart at WrestleMania. No, Austin and just. This is like that. Well, you know the meme with Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the whole conspiracy theory board. It's a good episode, by the way. Watch it. But this is where we could go with every split timeline. This is like MCU, WWE, all the same.
No, I get where you're coming from. It's just, there's so many possibilities that they could have done, but it also does hammer the fact that this was such a huge misbooking opportunity. This was such a huge waste of everything just so that they could do, like I said, Stalker, wood chipping a mop because reasons, little tiny.
I liked Moppy.
Moppy was amazing. I will say that.
I thought it was funny.
Little tiny Booker T dancing and Chronic. Yes, we only saw them I think one time, but they were memorable enough to be like, we hate these guys.
I used to love Crush and Atom Bomb. I kind of like Chronic and WCW too.
So we'll kind of wrap up this just a bit, kind of basically saying, yes, had they not done all the stupid decisions that they did with the invasion, had they, probably gone with a bunch of great writers that literally said to Vince, hey, let's go down this route, let's not just do it for the entertainment value, let's actually create something spectacular, let's actually have, WWF guys take on these WCW guys, not have, this person go to this company, and then this person turns, and then this person turns, and then this person turns, and then blah, 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 that kind of deal, because then it just turned into like, well, who's on whose side, who's on whose side, who's on whose side, because unless it makes absolute sense, there's no reason for them to, do this entire deal where they just decided, hey, let's have, Stone Cold turn heel. Let's have Kurt Angle turn heel at the very end, only to turn quote-unquote face again, because that made sense, I guess. Let's not have all these random things just going on. It's just really weird, man. It's just really, really weird. Wrestling's weird.
Yeah. Very. I mean, that's why we have wrestling podcasts and things like Botchamania, because it's weird.
This is true. This is very true. Alright, guys, so we're going to take our final commercial break, and then when we come back, we're about a week away from SummerSlam, which means down to the final 2 favorites on my list of absolutely fantastic favorites as far as tag teams, women's wrestlers, and favorite match of 2017. Oh my gosh, we're at 2017 right now. That's absolutely amazing. So guys, stay tuned. We will be right back.
What's up, guys? This is the Monday Night Delight from the Gifted Podcast, and you're listening to Wrestle Addict Radio.
Hey guys, this is NateFNGreat. Hey, have you ever wanted to be a champion but can't seem to really find the money and the time to get a championship belt? Well, you know who's a really good friend of mine? AJ from AJsBelts.com. These guys have a large assortment of championship belts, from classic belts to the modern day belts to championship belts you would not even believe. And guys, like I said, they work with you very well. With an awesome layaway program, there is no way that you can beat these guys' prices as well as these guys' deals, especially when you can give them a little bit of money every now and then until you can get that championship gold. Coming from a guy who's a champion and a game changer, I'm indeed NateFNGreat. I'm representing AJsBelts.com, proud friends of the Game Changer Podcast.
Buzz, guys. My name is Kate Murphy of the Kings of the Ring podcast, and you are listening to Wrestle Addict Radio.
This is your pool party captain, Randy Fitzsimmons, and you're listening to the Game Changer Podcast. Pew, pew!
Shout out to my favorite tag team, Wild and Randy. Those guys are absolutely amazing. Check them out, you guys. They have some great matches, including a pool party match this past ACW show. It was just absolutely awesome. So, I'm NateFNGreat. He's the legendary Mr. Fretz. This is the Game Changer Podcast, and we are a part of Wrestle Addict Radio. Proud friends of them. Check them all out. Mention them throughout the show, but we'll mention them again. The Gifted Podcast, Not Your Mama's Soap Opera Podcast, the Fourth Wall WrestleCast, and of course, the KOTR, the Kings of the Rings Podcast. Definitely check them out every week. It's absolutely awesome. All right, so Mr. Fretz, it's time to go through some more favorites. I know that we've talked a lot about these, and I actually had a little more time last week to talk about some of these, so I also want to get some more insights on the ones I have for this week. Now, we're down to the final 2 for each category, guys. Well, actually, next week's going to be interesting because I'm actually going to have 2 favorite matches. One for 2018 and then also favorite matchup of this year, which I think once we get into the one for this year, I think a lot of people aren't going to be too surprised by that, but we'll talk. I
already know what it is, I think. Maybe. We'll talk about it next week. I'm not going to, this is not a prediction. This is a spoiler. Crap. The guy didn't say that. God, I hate to say that.
All right, so we're going into tag teams. Number 2 favorite tag team for myself has been the one, the only, the legendary team known as Team 3D, a.k.a. the Dudley Boys. I cannot get enough of these guys. These are one of the most perfect teams that you could absolutely have together. Devon Dudley, Bubba Ray Dudley, Brother Ray, Brother Devon, Devon, Bully Ray, whatever incarnation they basically had. It was always just great to see these guys just do absolutely great. Like I said, their matches are great. We've talked about the triple threat matches between them, the Hardy Boys, and Edge and Christian so many times. They're the innovators of the tables, where they are literally the first teams to basically say, like, you know what? We're going to introduce tables in the matches. We're going to start sending people through them, including women, ladies and gentlemen. They're probably one of the first few teams that I've seen that literally decide, you know what? We're actually going to do a 3D to a woman. Okay, let's send her through a table this week. It's like they're doing everything they can to just create history and also just be the most hated team of all time. And I think that they are definitely very high up there, although I think La Resistance might have a running for the money. damn it, why can't we have La Resistance versus Team 3D one more time? I'm sorry, I want that so badly right now. I'm talking, of course, of Robert Conway and Sylvain Grenier, not Sylvain Grenier and Rene Dupree. No disrespect to Rene Dupree, but I just would love to see them wrestle one more time. Gosh, if I talk about favorite moments of these guys, their Hall of Fame speech was just absolutely hilarious, where Devon is usually kind of like the guy in the background, just like, kind of nodding off and just saying, "Oh, my brother, testify." But no, like literally at the beginning, he's just like, "You've had all these years to talk. It's my turn to talk now." And even Bubba just says, like, during the deal, he's like, "Why do you pick now, our last day of being together, to be so damn entertaining?" Just absolutely hilarious. Also, ECW, Bubba always had like that, that stutter, like, whenever he would just be like, "Let's get ready to roo," and just keeps that stutter on. And I think that WWE did do a way of just making it a little more offensive, where he just, they even did, like, what was it, like a Western deal or some crap like that, where it sounded like they were talking with a random accent. "Thou shalt mess with the Dudley Boys."
As a Southern preacher, the precursor to Reverend Devon. Amen, my Lord.
But I mean, honestly, I think my favorite part is their TNA run, because they had so many more entertaining moments. Even when they broke out as singles competitors, Bubba would go on to become Bully Ray, and he would just have some great moments. Oh God, the cheese grater to the nuts. Oh jeez, I'm still cringing at that moment. But when I'm thinking of like hilarious moments, there's this early on deal that I remember watching where everybody just kept doing fat jokes to Bubba Ray, and there just comes a point where he just gets so pissed off, he takes off his flannel shirt, and he's just like, "Stop calling me fat!" It's just so hilarious. And then they had the scale the scale deal. Oh my God, was that so entertaining. So basically, no, I wish it was Bob Holly, but basically there's this deal where Team 3D lost to the Motor City Machine Guns in like a huge matchup, and basically a stipulation was that you had to weigh a certain amount in order to compete. And every week there was always like this deal, like, Bubba would pass, but then Devon would fail, or Devon would pass and Bubba would fail. And there's always like these moments where they would be like, you got the chicken wings, didn't you? I told you not to do that. I told you. Makes your body swell. Just all these random deals. And they even had sketches where Devon was going to like this place where they were getting ribs, or they go to a candy store, and Bubba and Bully just does this deal where he's like being an innocent kid. He's like, "I'm gonna nurture in my mouth," and Giant Divine's like, "Spit it out." He just opens his mouth, and there's like 4 different jawbreakers just popping out of his mouth, and he's like, all of them. He spits one more out. It's like, God damn it! It's a disgusting moment, but it's so highly entertaining when you go back and look at it. It just reminds you that these guys will do nothing less to just be the most entertaining and also the most hated tag team of all time. Love Team 3D. Love these guys. Just, oh my God. Like I said, at the bottom line, I love them.
Me too, man. Ever since I saw them on, I watched ECW on TNN. It actually aired, which was not often, from day one. Like, right away. I was instantly hooked. I knew they were coming to the WWE because around 99, I was starting to actually discover what dirt sheets were, kind of. And I knew they were coming to the WWE, so I'm like, okay, these guys put people through tables. I'm sold. I'm good. These guys, it's like, oh, put people through tables. Oh, so they're a better Public Enemy. Sold. I was 15 when they debuted, so yes, I laughed at the stuttering gimmick. Looking back, I'm like, it's kind of tasteless. Like, I kind of liked how The Rock did it. It was just like, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that was kind of fun. And then I just love how everywhere they went, even if they were getting cheered, they can flip a switch and be the most booed person in a building. Like, they go into Madison Square Garden, and it's like, yeah, my friend is John Rocker. New Yorkers, please help me out. I forget who John Rocker is. Baseball player. He's like the heel of the Yankees, I think, which deservedly, because fuck the Yankees. Even though we're going to win the Blood Pennant this year, my God. Yeah, I didn't watch. I wasn't watching a lot of Impact by the time they got there. I mean, I actually ordered Lockdown 2007 when they had that stupid electrified cage match with LAX.
Oh gosh, that's right.
Yeah, if you really want a good laugh, watch OSW Reviews video podcast about Lockdown 07. They just shit on it. It's just like, you see and then a fire hose gets attached to the ring, and then you get butter tossed into it, like, it's like, hey, lights are going out, I want a refund. But one story about the Dudleys that I absolutely loved was when Bubba Ray did the super bomb to Mae Young off the stage.
Oh.
Mae Young was probably, when she passed away in 2010, 2011, 2012, 13, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
She was 90. But I think she lived to be 90. But she bombed off the stage. She was maybe in her 70s. And she, grabs Bubba Ray and is like, you better not fucking take it easy on me. Like, slam me as hard as you can. It's like, yes, ma'am. Yep. Because you don't fuck with Mae Young. Oh, my goodness, you don't. Even when she's, old and, can't walk and talking about the rock strudel. Oh, the rock strudel will break you in half, Mae. Oh, Mae, I love you. She's like, don't take it easy on me just because I'm old. It's like, yep, okay. So she does it, and then as soon as she was down, just farts on him.
Really?
And it's you see his euphoric trans face, okay, I'm gonna take a screenshot here, put it on the podcast. Was and it's the stink is just starting to get up there, so you try to keep a straight face after an old lady farts on you. And then, one more Mae Young story, but it's about Eric. When she Bronco busted Eric Bischoff, she put a bunch of sardines down her pants just for shit. Oh, God, I love Mae Young so much. Yeah, Dudley Boys, I mean, we had every great moment. Tables, ladders, and chairs. I liked Bubba's solo run with the hardcore title. I thought that was kind of cool. He was trying to come out on his own. I thought it was almost a precursor to, a face Bully Ray. And just every time, him and, he'd be the jerk-ass older brother or older cousin to Spike, kind of treat him like a little run, like a noogie, but also just, if he's being stupid, just slap him, just because. Shut up, Spike. The lesser said about Reverend Devon, okay, I'm a Christian. I did pastoral internships. I didn't fucking Reverend Devon. I thought it was stupid. Why are you doing a preacher gimmick in 2002? Really? And yeah, just their run from them. I saw them wrestle live in one of the only 2 wrestling events I've ever been to. They wrestled the late 3-Minute Warning.
Oh.
That was that same house show I referenced before that was main evented by Test and Scott Steiner. But hey, Test was born and raised in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, just outside of Toronto. And that's where the house show was. So hey, of course your boy's going to main event. I mean, who was in the Raw main event picture in May 2003? Yeah, Triple H wasn't coming to Oshawa, not a chance. So hey, the next best thing, yeah, as I said, some of their TNA run. I actually watched, Impact right up until Spike stopped. When I moved into my place here, I actually had cable because I didn't in college. So between 2012 and 2015, it was Impact almost every week. I watched and I suffered through the entire Aces and Eights.
Need you say more?
And I hated Bully Ray. Like when Austin Aries beat him for the title, mark out moment, hardcore, right there. Right? And it was right in the feels because Austin Aries is like the fiery young face before he became like asshole vegan.
Yeah.
I won't hold the cruiserweight title because it's made of cow leather. Dad, you please. Daniel Bryan held the title, and then he turned it later into a vegan title. Imagine if they did that for Aries. So, I'm on my usual rabbit trails. Team 3D, yeah. They're in my top 3, probably.
Yeah, 3 club. what was I going to say? I was going to say no reaction Aries, because I don't know if I told you this story, but it's funny because when I was at All In, I was in this huge line waiting to get pictures. I think it was for with Pentagon and Phoenix. There we go. And I just remember, Pentagon, Phoenix, they get in. People are like, hey, yeah, cool, they're in. Then here comes SoCal Uncensored. They're going, SCU, SCU, SCU. SCU. People are going crazy. And then comes Austin Aries. He kind of, somehow he's like casually going through. No reaction. It was just dead silence. And he also just casually just walked right into line. And for me, I was like, oh, hey, it's Austin Aries. Oh, well. Like if it was somebody else, it'd be like, oh my god, it's this person, it's amazing. But for Austin Aries, it's like, oh hey, Austin Aries, I don't care.
He's virtual.
Well, he did get some people on his line, but it was just one of those things where it's like, whatever. I also wanted to just take one of his bananas just for the hell of it, just so be like, give me that banana. And he just chases after me for a banana, dude. Out of context, I can understand how that sounds weird, but. Oh my god, that would be amazing.
Title with a banana. Come on.
Oh man, that's hilarious. If somebody could make like an animated deal where just Austin Aries is just chasing somebody who grabbed one of his bananas off of his table, just please, I will share that forever. I will watch that forever with that exact same music of just
sorry, this is for people who listen to Cultaholic and their classic Raw reviews. John? Yeah, Austin Aries as Benny Hill with a banana, please. If anyone gets that, John Eiley as like a Photoshop guy for Cultaholic while Tom Campbell and Justin Henry review classic Raws. It's like, they'll just talk about something that it's just like, oh yeah, it looks like this. John? He's just in the background doing, for the love of God, listen to that. That's a funny one.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Alright, so going into the women's, I think for the last 2 women, I am going to actually play their theme music for this one. So for number 2, just enjoy this nice little brief minute of her theme music. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it may have been a minute too soon, but you know something? I don't care. Number 2 for me is Rosemary. I'm sorry. The day that she debuted, I literally was just like, okay, this is kind of an interesting deal. She's kind of got like this zombie-ish dead girl kind of deal. Then you kind of keep watching and seeing her kind of just, go from like being one of the greatest managers I've ever seen, teaming her up with, Crazy Steve and Abyss to form Decay, one of, honestly, the greatest tag teams, I will say, in Impact's history. Just absolutely awesome. And then they go into the whole deal with the Broken Hardys. Oh, things got really interesting then. We just see her just almost like enjoy every single bit of this, and she just was one of those MVPs of that. I will say that one of my favorite moments is when she sprays the mist at Matt. Matt just sucks it up and then just sprays it back at her.
Oh my god!
It was amazing. And then there's another one at Bound for Glory. Oh my god, this was amazing. So, somehow they got the Lake of Reincarnation's water at Bound for Glory. I don't know how, it just happened. But Jeff Hardy gets splashed with it by Crazy Steve. And next thing you know, we see a camera looking over at Steve. Jeff Hardy's off camera. We're just seeing like fruits and vegetables and stuff like that being thrown at him. And we find out that it's one of his alter egos, Itchweed, coming out like, yo man, what's going on? My name's Itchweed. I eat the weed. You know who I am? My buddy's Jeff Hardy, man. What are you looking at? He just throws a chair at every official. Just goes crazy. And then Rosemary tries to get involved, and Itchweed just grabs a pumpkin, puts it on her head, and he's just, yes, it is, no, it gets even better, because he was like, oh, let me get, yes, Jeff Hardy's Itchweed character, he basically said, let me get a good look at you, girl. He lifts it up. Somehow this pumpkin, I don't know if this is during Halloween time or something like that, it has a hole in it. All you see is just red mist coming out that blows right into the face of Itchweed. He's going like, wow, yo, oh man, can't see shit, man. Just so absolutely amazing. But what really gets me about Rosemary is not only her in-ring deal. I love seeing her in the ring, and she does a fantastic job. She's probably one of the best hardcore women of all time. Definitely up there with people like Daphne. I would definitely put Victoria up there as well. Her character is what really, really gets me, because, okay, so I've met her twice in the last year, and I'm hoping it's for a third time at All Out. I really hope it is. So, first time meeting her is just absolutely amazing. I love telling this story because it again furthers the fact that, wrestlers can be human beings and that they could be really some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. She was with, Allie, Demon Bunny. Everybody knows that. Check out their YouTube stuff. This is not me being, sponsored by them. This is a shameless plug. They have a lot of entertaining stuff. They do this multi-universe deal. It's so funny. Definitely check all that stuff out. Basically, I go up to their table, get a picture with them, and I actually said to Rosemary to the side, it's like, you're one of my favorite women wrestlers of all time. And she was very flattered by that. Allie overhears me, and she says, hey, we should both be your favorites. And I'm just like, sorry, but she's kind of got this gimmick deal. It's really awesome. I kind of offended Allie, and I just remember Rosemary whispering in my ear, just tell her that we don't care. I literally looked at Allie, and I'm just like, what she said. Allie's one of the sweetest people. Allie is one of the sweetest people you could ever meet. And I feel so bad that the first interaction I have with her is literally saying, no, she's my favorite. You are not. But I made it up to her the following day, although she did get one good shot in me, where I come up to her and I just say, like, oh, it's great to see you guys again. And I was just like, oh, I remember you. You hurt my feelings. And I'm just like, damn it, she remembers me. Not in that way, but damn it. So I made amends with her. I took a photo with her. I even got a picture with Rosemary, too. And I just remember at All Out, I don't know if she thought I was leaving or something like that, but I just remember passing by her in the doorway to where there was this basement area and stuff like that, and she actually looks at me, smiles, and she just says, take care, Nate. I'm just like, you too. I'm just like, this is one of the reasons why I love this woman. She's really nice to me. I'm apparently part of her hive. I love it. This past year, I didn't get a chance to really interact with them too much, although I did say to Allie, I said to her, I only got 2 words for you, and that is, good job. Honestly, the way that you left Impact, that was one of the most emotional moments I think I've ever had watching an Impact episode. Basically, she gets killed off. She has this emotional moment with Rosemary. It's really, really good. But getting back to Rosemary, it's just so so awesome. She's just absolutely amazing, and she's one of those women who I look at and say, okay, she's one of those women who literally keeps kayfabe real, because you honestly don't know if this is really her speaking or if this is her character speaking. It's just so well done, and every single time I see her, I mark out. I'm not gonna lie, she is literally one of my favorite women ever to meet. So I'm hoping I'm not fanboying out too much, but Rosemary is definitely one of my favorites, and that was one of those moments that just definitely stood out to me as one of the best moments I could ever have as a wrestling fan. It was awesome.
I've seen very little of Rosemary, but from what I've seen, like, my goodness, like, what a character. Just, I think I got in when she was, did she feud with the Hot Mess?
I want to say that she did. I want to say that she did feud with well, back then she was Laurel Van Ness, but now she's Chelsea Green, a.k.a. future Mrs. Zack Ryder.
Woo-woo.
Woo-woo-woo.
Yeah, it was what, I think it was, this is another, I think, OSW review for this, but they did one, say they did Bound for Glory 2017, and I'm like, hey, why don't we do, 2007, why don't we do 2017? So I think it was in Toronto, so they did the whole thing. It was either, I think they had a match, but then when Impact started going on Twitch, I managed to watch almost every week for maybe half a year at least, and this was during the prime Su Yung Rosemary feud. So seeing all that, and then the whole dark-sided alley thing, like, Rosemary is just so entertaining. She can evoke, she looks like kind of like a fiend, taker, dark-sided kind of gimmick, but she can evoke such great emotion. I mean, you're talking about that whole leaving Impact thing. That is just like chills, tears. That moment, my goodness. And just huge Su Yung fan through that whole feud too, because she is otherworldly, literally. But yeah, I want to see. Is she signed with AEW, or is she kind of floating around the indies now, or in Impact still?
I think she's still in Impact. I know Allie is a part of AEW, but as far as Rosemary goes, who knows? Maybe she'll be brought in. Maybe we are going to see, Demon Bunny brought into AEW, but who knows at this point. And I want to also talk about that, too. The whole Demon Bunny gimmick is literally one of the most polarizing duos that you will ever see, because you have this nice and gentle, very kind lady in Allie, and then you have Rosemary, who is just like the complete polar opposite of that. And of course, it's like, hey, that's like sitcom magic right there. But it's done so well though, because you have these moments where they go to maybe like a coffee shop, or they enjoy donuts, or they just go to like these. There's like I think a blog where they went to Disney World, Animal Kingdom, I want to say, and it's just so funny seeing these interactions. You kind of see, Rosemary is just kind of like, I don't want to, show that I'm enjoying this. I don't want to show that I'm, smiling and stuff like that. She's doing this so well, and Allie's just trying to, have her open up a bit. She's like, no, come on, have fun. And Rosemary's like, hell no. It's just so funny just seeing that, and all these attempts of her trying to get Rosemary to open up. It's just so funny, because it does add more layers to the Rosemary character, as if we needed them after that whole story she shared with Bram. Oh my god. Also one of my favorite origin stories ever. Do you know about that whole deal?
I don't even know who Bram is.
Well, first of all, let's just say he is a former Mr. Charlotte Flair, and let's just say that a domestic violence got involved, and they're no longer married. So, but that's all you need to know about that. But basically,
is he in the Forgotten Sons?
No, that's Gunner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think Bram's on wrestling's blacklist for a while. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen him in like ever. But getting back to it, basically, it's just one of those really unique stories where she talks about, her time as a child, and then she talks about how she had all this kind of, issues with relationships because there was this one guy, he was so sweet, but he took advantage of her. It's kind of one of those things where, it shows the layers of how her character came to be and how she kind of, why she acts the way she does. It's just so well done. It's one of my favorite origins, like I said, where some people are just like, oh, I was born off the streets. I worked in hard times. I made it to this place right here. No, she literally goes into like detail, like, I had a troubled childhood. I had troubled teen life. It's kind of those things where it's like, this is kind of relatable shit here. Because people have had people that are like, either crazy when they're growing up or they have people that have used them for different kind of opportunities. It's just so well done. I love the Rosemary story because, again, it's not only relatable, but it helps you kind of sympathize for the character that she presents. It's so well done. Definitely, I would suggest checking it out, you guys. It's again, one of those things where you just kind of watch it and it's like, wow, they actually give a crap about this character. It's not just one of those things where they just, plaster a label on it and say, hey, this is this person. Like them because they're relatable to you. Yeah, right. We can relate to John Moxley because he revealed his butt and he got a shot in his butt. Yeah, that's very relatable. That's good shit right there. No, it's not. It's just stupid. Jesus. I'm getting off on a tangent here. But anyway, so now we're going on to the number 2 favorite male wrestler that I have on here. And guys, it's a Canadian. I'm going to tell you that right now. So, Mr.
Okay, let's hear the theme. Cue the. Actually, I might know who it is, but go.
Well, hold on. Let me get his theme music up here because I may have just accidentally deleted it. But okay, here we go. Now here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, just enjoy. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Well, you know that I'm a Bobby Roode mark. Come on, let's be fair. Guys, honestly, it was not that hard for me to put Bobby Roode so high up on the list. I absolutely have... I have a couple videos where literally I'm still singing along to the Bobby Roode theme song because A, it's catchy, B, it's awesome, C, it's catchy, 4, it's awesome, and 5, it's freaking catchy and awesome. What more do I need to say right now? And it's also Bobby Roode. Ever since he was with Team Canada, I kind of looked at him at first and I was just like, okay, so he's got something about him. Then he went on to do the whole deal with Miss Brooks, and then Peyton Banks, where he was one of the first guys to actually hit a woman. Oh dear Lord. Then he would go on to tag team with Beer Money Incorporated with James Storm. He would then turn heel on James Storm to become the world champion, the longest reigning champion in Impact's history. Now, one of the reasons why I really enjoyed that was because of his promos. You listen to a lot of his promos, and they are either so dastardly that you hate them, or they're just so passionate that you love them. I remember his promo against guys like MVP and Hulk Hogan, where he definitely emphasized the fact that, the reason why I'm here is because I love the sport of professional wrestling. He mentions that. It's one of those things where people are like, yeah, he loved that. And he also talks about how, he spent years on the road doing these things, missing his family, doing everything like this. It's just so well done. I love everything about the promos that he does. It's just absolutely great. His wrestling ability, I would definitely say in Impact, it got better as years went on. And then we go into him with WWE. I mean, of course, he kicks off with the fact that he has this amazing theme song, which is still, people love doing these. I will still do a Glorious Bomb to this day. I did one for last year's Money in the Bank, and I don't regret it at all. I will also say that, him going to an NXT TakeOver, and the first entrance that we see is him just descending seemingly from the heavens. My God. I was literally thinking, I'm on Cloud 9 right now. my boy Bobby Roode is getting one of the best entrances of all time. Little did I know, he was going to get better theme songs. He was going to get better entrances. He was going to be having ladies escorting him down. He was going to have a choir singing for him. He was going to have, oh my God, he was going to have this piano deal, which was awesome. And of course, what a surprise, they screw him up on the main roster. God dang it. You know what? Positive. Bobby Roode, I still loved everything that he did for wrestling. I love his NXT run. I love his run in Impact. His main roster run, well, less more that we say about that, the better. I'm sorry. But everything from, the mic skills to his wrestling, it's just absolutely wonderful. It's absolutely tremendous. It's absolutely glorious, we'll even say. So I think I've spent enough time talking about that. You, Mr. Fretz, as a fellow Canadian, are you big on the Bobby Roode bandwagon, or are you kind of done with that?
Big time Bobby Roode fan since day one. I have his Pro Wrestling Wiki up here beside me right now. One of his first ring names, did you know this, was Total Lee Awesome.
Really?
Yeah, right here.
Oh my God, that's amazing!
Go to ProWrestlingFandom.com right now. It's there. So Bobby Roode was born in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada, which is literally 45 minutes away from where I grew up, in a tiny town named Cannington, and I think only a handful of people know where that is. Philadelphia friends, Aunt Stefano, Scott Rand, shout out, too sweet. They would know as the hometown of Philadelphia Flyers legend, the late, great Rick McLeish. Broad Street Bullies. They'll know. But, yeah, Bobby grew up not far from where I did, so... And it's like Tess, in one direction over here, in like the... I don't know my north, south, east, west, so forgive me. So, say if my town was in the center here, over yonder in this, I'm pointing over here, sorry, maybe we'll do a video podcast, but I'm pointing over in a certain corner of my room. That's Oshawa. That's where Tess grew up. And then this other way over here to the right, that's where Bobby Roode grew up, in Peterborough. So I was surrounded by a lot of great wrestling talent, and I didn't know it. Christian was born in Kitchener, the city I went to college in. Edge is from Orangeville, like 45-minute drive from my house now, in Sauble. Team Canada, I'm a big-time Canadian patriot, as you know, so any iteration of a Canadian stable, be it the Hart Foundation, be it Team Canada and WCW, although it was comprised entirely of Americans, except for Lance Storm. Mance, that's for you to deal with. And if I can have one hot take about it, we were talking about the WCW Cruiserweight title, and it's like the 100-kilogram and under title. We use metric in Canada. Young Skipper is the WCW Saskatchewan, 100 kilo and under. We use pounds here. Not British pounds. But yeah, I followed Bobby from Team Canada. I was marking the heck out when him and Eric Young won the tag team titles. And then Pete Williams had the X Division title. I'm thinking okay, if you had one more big-time Canadian name, in which in the Indies at that point, there really wasn't any. I mean, maybe PCO, but he was wrestling under a mask as X in TNA for a very brief period of time at this point, or just before. The lesser said about that, the better, because it was crap. Maybe a guy like him could have came in and had a world title run, and then Canada could have just had all the momentum, just for a little bit, maybe a couple of months. And, yeah. And one thing in TNA, I didn't watch too much of Beer Money. I think by that point I was in college and I didn't have a lot of access to wrestling yet. I didn't discover what streaming sites that Justin.tv were. There's a throwback for you folks. That's how I watch Raw every week in college, because I didn't have cable. I loved his whole I'm trying to pick out a manager shtick. So he'd go into the back of a limo, and every week there'd be Bobby Heenan or Tracy Brooks or Jimmy Hart or someone, and it's just like The Bachelor, but for I want a manager. And he had I think he had Tracy Brooks for a little while, and he had his whole early day kind of glorious, nice roby, suit wearing Ric Flair kind of deal. And I always thought, even in TNA, that he was always underrated, underutilized. He had a couple of runs with the title, right?
Yep, he won his first one against James Storm, and then he had one more title run after he beat Bobby Lashley, which again, very underrated feud, I want to add.
All right, yeah, I'd have to go back and watch some of that old TNA one of these days, but yeah. And then when I saw Bobby, like, I knew he got signed by NXT, and then he comes out in, I think he came out on one of the Brooklyn shows.
Yeah, it was I think it was either. I may have misspoken when I said it was in Brooklyn 1. I think he came out in Brooklyn 2 was his debut.
Against fellow Canadian Ty Dillinger, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope, that was his debut match was against the well-known now Andrade Cien Almas. But he would face Ty Dillinger in the first NXT TakeOver at Toronto, which is by far still one of the best matches to come out of Canada, damn it!
Yeah, Dillinger, well, he's from St. Catharines, which is just, near Niagara Falls, like where I went Comic-Con. I was actually surprised I didn't see him or Ethan Page there, because Ethan Page is also from St. Catharines, Niagara Falls. Another great Canadian, yeah. I could, like you, I could go on about Bobby Roode, and I've seen him on Main Event recently, and he did keep his mustache. That had potential, even though it was crap. I'm like, oh, that could have had some potential. But Bobby Roode he's underutilized. He had the U.S. title run. He's 42, so he can help train and put over some people. But I just want to see him have like at least another U.S. like mid-card title run, or why not Universal title run or something. But yeah, I gotta side with my fellow Canadian here, big time. I love Bobby.
I want to entitle this episode "Fretz is surrounded by Canadian stardom." Just that's just going to be one of those things that it's a working title progress, but it's just one of those things where it's like, this is what basically sums up this episode the most right now. Fantasy booking, and Fretz is surrounded by Canadian stardom.
Fantasy stardom.
Fantasy stardom. Yes, I love it. Alright, so final thing here, of course, is going to be favorite matchup. We are in 2017 here, and, well, since we talked about Bobby Roode, why not talk about him again? Talk about his championship matchup that he had at NXT TakeOver San Antonio against the King of Song Style, Shinsuke Nakamura. Oh, my dear Lord. I remember watching I went over to a friend's house about maybe a half an hour from here, and I remember we were just ready for this matchup. It's like, our boy from TNA Impact, Bobby Roode, is getting a shot at the NXT title, and he's facing off against one of the greatest things out of Japan, Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm literally thinking to myself, I never knew I wanted this matchup until it happened. Now I want more of this matchup, and thankfully we got a rematch later on, but nothing beats the first. I've said it before. I will say it again. This was just an absolutely great matchup. Really good storytelling. There was a point, I think, during this matchup, if I'm not mistaken, where Nakamura was looking for the Kinshasa, but he hurt his leg. Bobby Roode systematically was just beating down on this leg, just trying to take him down to eliminate the Kinshasa from his arsenal. And it's a great matchup, just great build-up, near fall after near fall after near fall. Finally, Nakamura is able to hit the Kinshasa, but you see him just yelling and screaming. He's holding his leg, and it's like, oh my God, he can't get to the cover yet. He's wasting time. Oh my God, no, he's not kicking out. He's kicking out. So finally, 1, 2, Bobby Roode just kicks it out just barely, and then Bobby Roode is able to get him up, hits the glorious DDT. 1, 2, 3. Literally, I just go right down to my knees, super happy. Like, yes, our boy Bobby Roode has done it. He has won the NXT title. It's not the WWE title. I don't care. That title has more prestige than the WWE title at this point. Just, Oh, it was just a beautiful moment. And he was the last guy to hold the original version of the NXT title belt, because then the night after...
The Big X.
Yeah, the Big X one, because then I think the event after, that's when they transferred to the newer ones, which, let's be fair, the new NXT title and the women's NXT title looked the same. Why couldn't they have kept the whole deal with, I liked the original NXT women's title, and I understand why they got rid of it. I will say this, that after kind of finding out what happened with Paige and that belt, and then just to see Asuka just take that title and just put her tongue on it, it's like, you know where that belt's been, right? Yep. Asuka, you're amazing. I don't care what anybody says. Just absolutely awesome. But yes, just Bobby Roode winning the NXT title, one of the major highlights of his career. And I also loved the build-up that they had, because they had the whole contract signing, and it started off, these two guys are being very respectful of each other. Bobby Roode saying, like, oh, it's going to be an honor to take you on. It's going to be an amazing matchup. Then after the contract signed, Bobby Roode then just starts to turn heel. And he's just like, you're this guy who comes out here, you do the little hand thing, like, he's just mocking Nakamura. But it gets... yeah, Nakamura. He literally just decides, oh, you're going to mock me for my deal. Bobby Roode's about ready to do his catchphrase of saying, absolutely, and then Nakamura stops him. And he basically just says, you will lose, and it will be. And Bobby Roode's like, don't you do it. Don't you take my catch. Don't you do it. And he does the catchphrase of Bobby Roode. Oh, my God. One of the best build-ups, in my opinion. I absolutely loved it. I love this match. I love the build-up. Bobby Roode walks away as NXT champion. One of the reasons why I love wrestling.
Kawartha Lakes represent Bobby Roode. Yes. Even though I'm from Durham region, all of my family, we were all born in Kawartha Lakes, because my town had like a bar, a grocery store, and a Circle K, 7-Eleven, basically. Yeah, Bobby, yeah. I was with you right there. Probably went on my knees like you did, or just went when he won. I don't know. I'm not sure if I watched that live. It might have been a thing where I was either at work or I was at my brother's place hanging out with what year was that? Was that 2016?
Oh, the Bobby Roode Nakamura
San
match?
Antonio?
That was 17. That was 2017.
Okay, 17. Okay, so both of my brother's kids were born. Anyways, yeah, it was. It was a case of whether I was at home or at my brother's with the kids. But yeah, I flipped out too. I'm just like, what, Bobby? Really, Bobby? Yes. Like, you already said all the best from it. So it was a great match. It was a great moment. Yeah, heck, loved it.
Now, I do want to say this, just because this is going to be kind of like a slight jab at the co-host that I had a couple weeks ago. When Bobby Roode defended his title against Hideo Itami, which a lot of people were excited for. I was even excited for it.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah. I want to say this, because this is really funny, because Agent Cooper, for a lot of people that might not know this, he is a big mark, especially for the Japanese style, and of course, Hideo Itami, being Kenta, is a major star in Japan. So, he's the guy who invented the GTS. Guess what move was used in this matchup? The GTS. How many times did he use this move? Twice. Who walked away as the champion? Bobby Roode. So, he literally hates this matchup with a fiery passion, because Bobby Roode took two GTSs, which would literally probably kill anybody in real life. And the first one, he kind of rolls out of the ring, kind of do a set for a false finish. Get that. That's fine. Hits a second GTS, but he gets his foot on the bottom rope. I remember he told me that he was so pissed when that happened. He's literally like, I cannot stand Bobby Roode now. I absolutely hate this man. Nobody kicks out of the Nobody gets out of the GTS. Nobody gets out of it. It's done by Kenta. It's done the right way. This is not right whatsoever. He's just going on this tangent. And meanwhile, I'm just here being like, my boy Bobby still won. I'm happy. And of course, he does his threats of, of him just being like, I will rip out your heart, which will pull out your spleen, which will pull out your kidneys, which will pull out every single part of it, and I will cook it as a souffle, my friend. Be like,
holy shit!
It was something along those lines. I'm obviously over-exaggerating, but people who know him have definitely heard his rants and tirades of, basically just taking out souls and stuff like that. It's very wildly entertaining. If anybody if we could do like a compilation of sound bites of these threats, that would just be hilarious. I think that you would get your week's worth of just humor just by that. But that being said, just again, just love it. I hated the fact that Bobby lost to Drew, but at the same time, I'm not one of those people that's like, I hate Drew McIntyre for doing it. It's like, you had two of my favorite guys fighting against each other. I'm a winner either way. I just wish that Bobby Roode would have held the title a little bit longer, because it scared me that we had to deal with the fact that Roode had to go to the main roster. Oh, man. I kind of want him and EC3 to form like a small faction of Impact formers and just start a new alliance. Yes, a new alliance of just Impact stars. And R-Truth is just there, like, switching teams every week. But it makes sense for him, because R-Truth is a comedy deal. He just goes back and forth. It is what it is. It's just so hilarious. Although, I will say that he does have one of the best moments of the entire 24/7 deal, and that was that whole deal where he thinks he's got the belt. R-Truth rolls up Drake Maverick, and he just jumps into a limo, speeds off. Drake Maverick's wife is still in there, and Drake is just like, my baby! Where's my baby? Give me back my title! He looks over, he thinks his wife is there, he's like, no, that's not your wife. That is way too white to be your wife, first of all. Second of all, then we get that classic moment of, my wife!
And my wife! It's like I like the missing posters. It's like a big picture. It's like 24/7 title. Also my wife. Little picture right below it. But speaking of Drake, though, did you his unsanctioned match with Mike Kanellis this week?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Woof. That was rough, but in a good way. Like, he used the acid drop.
I know.
Spike Dudley. Like, yes.
He does the Spike Dudley. For a lot of people that remember him in Impact, he also called that the underdog, and it's a move that works for him. So I'm not going to complain about that at all. I'm not going to say like, he needs a different finisher. It's like, no, I think it works for him. I think it fits him pretty well. Plus a good tribute, like you said, to Spike Dudley.
Yeah, big time. He's about as big as Dudley is, so...
There we go. All right, guys, so we are unfortunately out of time for this episode of the Game Changer Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed all of our fun talks, our chit-chats, our ramblings, our rants, and even spitting a little fire at some certain things, whether that's podcasting or wrestling in general. But we keep wrestling real. We enjoy wrestling. Thank you guys so much for showing your support. A couple things definitely we want to hit on. Next Sunday is going to be the biggest party of the summer, that being SummerSlam, playa. Holla, holla, holla. Okay, I don't have the Teddy Long dance deal down, so I'm not even going to try. It's just bad. But also, I definitely do need to hit on this because it's going to be happening. August 11th, I do believe, is the date, if I'm not mistaken. The Wrestle Addict Radio is going to be releasing its very own Patreon page. So definitely, guys, for those of you that are interested in extra content created by all of our great family here at the Wrestle Addict Radio, check that out. It is going to be absolutely awesome. You're going to get some exclusive content you're not going to get anywhere else. Honestly, guys, it is so top secret, I can't even tell you what some of the ideas are. As far as Game Changers contribution, we have a couple ideas here and there that we'll probably try to work on. But at the same time, I'm not going to spoil everything because, that would make me an Endgame spoiler fan, and I don't want to be that person because that would just be mean.
Oh.
That would just be mean. So, for Mr. Fretz, I've been NateFNGreat. Be sure to follow us on our Twitters. Be sure to also check out everybody on Twitter from the Wrestle Addict Radio family. Got to mention them again. Gifted Podcast, Not Your Mama Soap Opera Podcast, The Fourth Wall WrestleCast, Kings of the Rings Podcast, and of course us here at the Game Changer Podcast. Guys, be sure to also give us a like on our Facebooks. Also, be sure to give us a like and follow on Instagram, because why the hell not? I've been kind of uploading some of my random things that I've had for wrestling throughout the year. I did one with CM Punk. I did one with the Elite. I might post up a couple more up there. You can definitely expect quite a few more pictures when I go to All Out in Chicago in a few weeks. That's going to be absolutely awesome. And trust me, when we get to that the week for recording for that is going to be absolutely insane. I guarantee it. Yeah, like I said, other than that, SummerSlam next week, Patreon coming up, All Out coming out in just a few weeks. It's going to be awesome. So be sure to tune in next week, guys, because we will talk about another game-changing scenario that unfortunately fell flat. Also give our predictions for the SummerSlam, because actually I do believe that we have a prediction battle coming up next week, Mr. Fretz.
Wait, do we?
I do believe we do. I believe it's you versus me versus the one and only Mr. Chad Knight for the Game Changer Championship. So while we probably won't get Mr. Chad on here, we will definitely get his predictions ready and raring to go, so that way you guys can enjoy this prediction battle. It's going to be a very interesting SummerSlam card, and we'll kind of see what happens with that. So, like I said, for Mr. Fretz, I've been NateFNGreat from the Game Changer Podcast, a part of the Wrestle Addict Radio Network. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep wrestling real, you guys. Keep the positivity flow through you. And wrestlers, we approve of you sitting down whenever you take photos with us. Pipe bomb. See ya.